Welcome and bienvenidos to Hockey's Pacific Revision, your source for all Dallas Stars news. The number one fans of the Dallas Stars across the league, across the internet, and in your ears right now. Joining me today, the Golden One himself, ready to get swept or in five. It's Miguel Nunez. Miguel, by the way, Miguel, I don't know if those sound effects work because last time they didn't. I had to cut them off. So who knows?
No, did they not? Okay.
No.
Either way, guys, I am so happy to be here today with you guys on the Pacific Revision. Hello, hi, how is everyone doing tonight? Shout out to all my Vegas born. Unite the kingdom, unite the realms.
Yeah, the Golden Heads.
God. The golden showers, as other teams would like to call us.
We do? I need to start saying that.
It's very on Reddit and Twitter. They call it the golden showers, and they call the referees the golden refs.
No, that's just funny. The referees. Hey, look, after round 2, Miguel, the refs do appear to love you. At least that's what the Edmonton Oilers tell me. So how about we start there? How about we start close to home, Miguel? Congratulations. The Vegas Golden Knights defeat the Edmonton Oilers in 6 games. How's it feeling? How's it feeling?
I mean, it took a bit too long, but it feels amazing. It feels amazing. You know what I mean? We gave them 2.
I don't know. I don't know what it feels like to beat the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs.
First off, I want to say this right now. To everybody out there in Oilers Nation, outside of Dan from Oilers Nation, I meant the general Oilers Nation, not Dan Nation, whatever that's called.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you guys. Y'all the worst. I hate you. I don't care.
So hold on. Just for clarification, asterisk. Oilers Nation, the brand, cool people.
Yes.
Oilers Nation, the entire fan base outside of them, go fuck worst. Yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Dan's awesome. I love Dan. He's great.
I do too.
It sucks that he has to be sad, but I'd rather be happy.
Let me tell you, Miguel. Look, let me tell you, Miguel. Cheer for a better team.
Yeah.
You know, if I didn't want to be sad, I would choose a different team. But this is what I'm stuck to.
Choose, and I emphasize this: choose a better team instead of cheering for two individuals.
Two players.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And those players are Jack Campbell. God, they should have played him, huh? Stuart Skinner ass.
So we're gonna get into the series, right? So Vegas wins 6-2. Vegas wins 4-2 the series in 6 games.
Miguel has not slept since Vegas won. He's been up all night.
I can't tell you how happy. Like this is by far one of the most satisfying playoff victories ever. It's right up there with Winnipeg year 1 to get into the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And next to, I would say the top 3 is beating Winnipeg.
Okay.
Beating Colorado 4-2 when everyone thought they were gonna destroy us and sweep us.
Oof, I don't like the parallels of that one, Miguel, for you. If that's the parallel drawing, because remember, everyone's like, "Hey, man, Colorado's gonna win, right?" And then you beat Colorado, right? Great moment. And then you're like, all we got to do is beat Montreal, and we're in the final.
I know.
Oof.
I know.
Does it look great if we're playing that story beat again? If we're gonna do Dallas again,
I think Oilers ranks number 1, just because that fan base.
Let me tell you, Miguel.
The worst.
Miguel. Let me tell you. You didn't just beat Edmonton. You beat the entire country of Canada. 30 years in a row, baby.
I wasn't gonna say this because I didn't want to jinx. I didn't say this because I didn't want to jinx it. I was praying, Eric, for a Toronto Vegas final so that Vegas could be the reason Canada did not get a cup this year because we eliminated the Winnipeg Jets. We eliminated Edmonton Oilers. And the only other Canadian team in the playoffs this year, it would have been Toronto Vegas in the finals. How beautiful would that have been?
3 out of 4 Canadian teams. Yeah, I get. Yeah.
Let's be honest. Out of the 16 teams, Vegas is the most Canadian team, anyways.
That's true.
And
I mean,
that is a
roster-wise,
fact.
sure. Yeah,
that
roster-wise,
is
sure.
a fact.
Also, currently the most northern team left in the playoffs between Vegas, Dallas, Florida, and Carolina.
So I hope for every Dallas game they play the Canada national anthem, because we are True North, Eric. So everyone in Vegas can yell out True North.
You beat their teams, and now you take their gimmicks. You'll love to see it. 30 years though, Canada. 30 years without a Stanley Cup winner, eh? That's what you get for beating the Los Angeles Kings in the playoffs, in the Stanley Cup final. Let that be a lesson to the rest of Canada. It
took the Edmonton Oilers to have LA fans cheer for Vegas. Ain't that crazy?
That's true. Out of spite. Miguel, it wasn't more or less that I was cheering for Vegas. I was cheering for the demise of the Edmonton Oilers.
That's fine. And that's really all the LA fans. They weren't cheering for Vegas. They were just cheering for the demise of Oilers, and specifically Connor McDavid, who played amazing this series. Not a 5-on-5, but
let me tell you, specifically for Evander Kane, because I can't stand that man. He's just a dumb face. I hate his face.
1 point in 6 games for Evander Kane.
Let me give you other stats, Miguel. 5-on-5, bodied by the Vegas Golden Knights. As we said, I 100% in my predictions. As someone who knows the Edmonton Oilers well, someone who knows who lose to the Edmonton Oilers well. 5-on-5, that's where you win. Guess what didn't happen the first 2 games? Didn't keep the game 5-on-5.
No, Vegas did a terrible job at them.
Vegas won game 1, but you had to win it 6-4, which is not a recipe for long-term success. Draisaitl, 6 goals in the first 2 games. 1 assist.
Amazing.
One assist the rest of the way.
I know.
Oof. That is
You know what's funny? So Vegas, Pietrangelo did an absolute disgusting thing. He slashed Draisaitl on the wrist. That's not hockey.
We can all agree. Probably deserved more than 1 game.
Oh, that should have been a 3-game minimum, in my opinion. 3-game minimum. But a lot of Edmonton fans were like, "Oh, if Pietrangelo was actually a hockey player, not a lumberjack, Draisaitl would have had more." Bitch, Draisaitl dried up in game 3. That slash happened at the end of game 4.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. And also, we've seen Draisaitl play with a lot less body accessibility, so who knows? But Evander Kane, 1 assist in 6 games. Nugent Hopkins just 1 point in 5-on-5. Like, it wasn't good. McDavid turned it on in games 5 and 6. Finally, like, he started generating chances 5-on-5, which is good. Shorthanded, even. Jesus Christ. He had Theodore all over his back on that shorthanded goal, and he makes those goals. You just go like, well,
yeah, I wasn't even angry. What could you do? There's nothing you could do.
But it's the thing that it was a difference. I said in my post-series recap with LA, the difference wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl. They're gonna get theirs eventually in some way or fashion. It's the depth, and you didn't have any of those key games that they had in round 1. You didn't have a Klim Kostin game. You didn't have a Kailer Yamamoto game. You didn't have a Evander Kane game. You didn't have anything besides game 2 Draisaitl. I mean, you had game 1 Draisaitl, but you blew an opportunity to win that when you score 4 goals. Like, you win that game, who knows what happens the rest of the way.
By the way, when you get a 5-minute major
against Vegas,
and you can only get 1 goal, stop complaining about the refs.
Yeah, their power play. It's funny, like their power play still clicked at like 40-something%, but like their power play, their power play kind of got cold by their standards.
Going into game 6, their power play was at 58%.
Yeah, and it ended up at 40. It's like
because we killed all the power plays in game 6.
Yeah, and when it mattered, their biggest strength didn't show up. Like any of those power play opportunities happens. Who knows? But it's the same thing that we've talked about, Miguel. It's 2 people. No one else had a good game.
No.
In any of the other games in the series.
You know who actually was good? 2 people were good for Edmonton. Bouchard. What's his name?
Evan Bouchard. He was pretty good.
Bouchard was good, and Ekholm at times was really good. At times, he wasn't good the entire series.
Those 2 are their best defensive pairing. I think you could see the acquisition of Matthias Ekholm really gave them something that they were missing. But
Evander Kane and Darnell Nurse were literally, and Cody Ceci were literally liabilities every time they set Every time they step foot on the ice, they were a liability to Edmonton.
Bad. And this is
And
the Evander Kane curse again.
there's a
Go ahead.
misconception where people were like, "Oh," and I saw it from Oilers Nation is, "Oh, Skinner played terribly."
He did.
If you look at your no, he didn't play
No,
good,
he's
but he
bad.
didn't play bad.
He was bad.
Mediocre. He was mediocre.
Miguel, let me tell
If
you
you
who
look-
he reminded me of. Let me tell you who he
If you
reminded
look
me
at
of.
the goals, it's just bad defense from
No.
Oilers.
No, he's got to make a save. I'm sorry, Miguel. In the remember we talked about in round one where you're like, man, Corpusalo really cooled off. Well,
Yeah.
no, he just stopped being a world beater at that point. Like he did those timely saves when the Kings were getting caved in at even strength, like or the power play, like just didn't. It stopped happening. Remember my biggest problem with Robin Lehner on Vegas is that he would be fine, but then he would never have that big save.
No,
And
no.
talk about moments again. He didn't. Stuart Skinner never had a moment.
No goalie did, honestly. Well, Aiden Hill in game six.
Yeah.
In game six.
Impressive performance. Gave up the first 2 shots on net.
And then blocked
saved
39 straight.
39 in a row. Like that's your
Yeah.
performance there. And he did have a couple of saves where he was going to side, denying folks down low. Like he had his moments. Like Stuart Skinner never had that. Like I understand Vegas scored 1 goal in 2 games in the series, but that was more of a Edmonton going up real big and Vegas having to play from behind. And like I said, Miguel, like the peaks and valleys of the Edmonton Oilers are very big. When they're good, Edmonton is really good. When they're bad, they are very bad. Vegas, and again, this sounds like an insult. Vegas, very average. You know what you're getting. Consistency from the Vegas Golden Knights.
Vegas isn't great at anything. They're not.
But they're not
great
bad at anything. But they're
not bad at anything.
Maybe the power play because
the power play is bad. I will say that. I'll say that.
We could talk about that, but like in terms of like 5-on-5, even the PK, it's pretty good. It did a lot better than LA's power kill, fucking weak kill, penalty kill. Because they figured out to be aggressive against the walls against the Oilers towards the end of that series.
The one thing about Vegas, and the main reason outside of Stuart Skinner, the main reason Vegas beat Oilers is that Vegas knows how to, like, Bruce Cassidy's system's all about defending the lead. It's so funny because you watch these games, every game that Vegas won, they dominated the second. I forgot they outscored in the playoffs. They're like 18-2 in the second period. So it's some crazy stat. They get the lead, and then you get this weird perception where it looks like Vegas is getting dominated because they're in their own zone. But that's by design because they set up this zone defense where pretty much they push your skaters to the outside. So you're only taking shots from the outside. And the second you shoot, or the second someone tries to get in, like McDavid, which McDavid did get in, but that's McDavid occasionally. The second you take a shot and you try to get a rebound or you try to break in through the defense, the zone defense collapses in around Aiden. And so that's how they were able to just not, like, Aiden didn't face a lot of dangerous shots. He faced a high amount of shots, but that's just what Vegas does. They've been doing that for the majority of the year.
You're also limiting transition opportunities by Edmonton by doing that as well.
So it's so funny. I would see Edmonton fans be like, "Oh, we dominated in the third, but we couldn't score." I'm like, "Yeah, that's by design. That's what Vegas does. Like, that's what they've been doing since the All-Star break."
Yeah, and it's a waiting of opportunities, and the opportunities never came for Edmonton, at least in the last game.
And they didn't take the opportunities that they had when Pietrangelo got suspended for one game. Oilers should have won that. Like they should have came out to win that game.
They were also down Darnell Nurse, but it's also a 1-goal game. I'm not gonna fault them for losing a 1-goal game in Game 5. I think at the end of the day, like, it just comes down to no one else showed up besides the big two, and when the big two did show up, it was at different times in the series. Draisaitl showed up in games 1 and 2. McDavid showed up in 4, 5, and 6, and they never got going.
I have two more points to make about this series before I stop talking about it. One, what I've said time and time again to you, Eric, is what I like about this Vegas team that feels different from other years is that this team finds a way to win. One night it was Stone and Eichel. Another night it was Mario making big goals. Another night it was and like let's to game 6. That was the Misfits. Like no matter what, every night someone different was stepping up, and like that's all year long. Like
Again,
no matter who's out, no matter who's injured, someone's stepping up, and
that
that's
goes
what
back
feels
to what we're
different.
saying. That's what we're going back to what we're saying. Like it's different people stepping up. Like in round 1, the Oilers had those games from those guys, like you're talking about, the depth guys. Not the for Vegas context, not the Eichel, not the Stone, not the Theodore. Even though Theodore had a rough series, kind of put it back together. Put it back together. Game 6 a little bit, like he was less of a liability, but
yeah, he was good. He played it safe in Game 6. And that's what he was kind of unnoticeable in Game 6 in a good way.
Hey, you know, as a defenseman, if you're unnoticeable, you had a good game.
Because Shea Theodore usually is noticeable because he likes to walk the puck in as a defenseman.
And that bit his ass one time.
He's good at it, but it bit his ass twice in this series. And he did. And Game 5 and 6, he didn't. He just kind of okay, I'm a chill and just play fundamental defense and not be noticed, which is fine.
Not turn the puck over to McDavid at the blue line.
Exactly. And then the second point.
But also, but like I'm saying, just like that, it's the depth of the Vegas Golden Knights. It outworked the star power of the Oilers, and it never lined up for them. Like we said, Draisaitl, great games 1 and 2, bad 3 to 6. McDavid, great 4, 5, and 6, but he had no help, and that's kind of it. And hey, Jonathan Marchessault, what a talk about a guy who needed to step up, and he did.
Marchessault refused to lose Game 6. But my other point I was gonna make is Jack freaking Eichel. That guy was a fucking monster. Not just offensively, but constantly. All I ever heard was this guy doesn't back check, this guy doesn't play defense. Well, under the Bruce Cassidy system, he does. And he was forechecking and backing up like a motherfucker against McDavid. Him Stevenson line 5-on-5 outscored 10-2.
Yeah.
10-2.
And I'll say this, like even if Jack Eichel didn't play defense, right? Let's say he didn't adapt to the Cassidy system. You know what's a good motivator? Playing against the guy who was chosen right above you. And and we all know, if there's one thing we do know about Jack Eichel, petty. Holds a grudge.
Oh, I know, and I love it. I'm petty too. I love it.
So that's the perfect motivator, and you saw that in Game 1 when he scored the empty netter after stripping McDavid. And you saw it.
Beautiful. The ice he gave, he stripped McDavid.
And you saw it in the last game when McDavid was trying to push the Oilers for a last offensive push down too. So he stepped up. Again, it's people stepping up in roles that you don't expect them to outside of goal scoring, and
because coming into the playoffs, remember I was like, I'm hoping Jack Eichel has another level for the playoffs that he's always been saving up. And I don't think he's had a Jack Eichel game, but I think you're correct in saying he has another level. Like his game might be coming. The Jack Eichel game hasn't come yet, but he hasn't played bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's very, very good. He's been getting better as the playoffs go. He's been a 200-foot player.
But we're still waiting for that key moment. Like Jack Eichel in the playoffs, you know what I mean?
And hey, look, you look on paper, 6 goals for Draisaitl, that's beautiful. But when they only came in 2 games, if you would spread that out, maybe your team has better luck. You know what I mean?
Don't waste a 4-goal game. You want to transition to talking about wasting 4-goal games in a series? Dallas wasted a 4-goal game by Joe Pavelski, but they ended up outlasting the Seattle Kraken in 7.
Man, talk about Game 7. Dallas where every game was back and forth. And Dallas was just like Game 7, wait up, we're the fucking Dallas Stars. We play boring shutdown hockey. And that's exactly what they did in Game 7.
Yeah, they threw it back. And it's funny because right before Game 7, I was seeing the stats that in the playoffs, I believe Jake Ottinger was the 3rd worst goalie in terms of expected goals for, so he was not playing well.
He got pulled
And
twice, I think, against Seattle.
yep, pulled twice, once in game 6 and the other one in game 3. Scott Wedgwood had to come in, didn't really do much. They were out of it. The entire series was weird because I think you can say there were no close games except for games 1 and 7.
Yeah.
Both teams were able to do what they wanted. The depth, if you want to talk about depth again, Miguel, the depth of the Seattle Kraken, they had, I believe, 16 different players score in the playoffs, which is insane productivity throughout the entire roster. Just insane. They were able to even weather losing Jared McCann, who scored 40 goals this year. Grubauer played pretty well in some of the games. But in the end, the Dallas Stars, their goalies, their depth, like I think going into it, you would have looked at both rosters and been like, I think Dallas has more talent. But again, Miguel, the difference between a team and having individual pieces, both of these teams are complete teams, and it just came down to one goal.
You know what? It's crazy too. First playoff for Seattle Kraken, an amazing coming out party for them, and they're so freaking young.
Yeah,
these Kraken are going to be a freaking headache.
Yeah,
for years.
I think their oldest person is maybe, I want to say Alexiak, but that might be wrong. But even him, he's maybe 30.
Like all the young guys that they took are doing well. Their rookies are.
Matty Beniers. Matty Beniers had a great thing. And the most surprising thing about this, if you want to talk about the Dallas Stars, as you're going to be facing them real soon, is let me do some quick math. They had 4, 8, 10, 16, 16, 21, 21, 24, 26 goals in a 7-game series. Jason Robertson scored one of them. Jason Robertson had one goal in round 2.
How Seattle kept them off the score sheet is beyond me.
He looked a little sleeping in Game 7. He had a couple good, decent chances, creating his own luck by pressuring, forechecking in the offensive zone, getting his opportunities, but just couldn't get anything to go in. So you have to feel good if you're Dallas about that. Jake Ottinger did not have his best series. Your best goal scorer did not have a good series. And you found a way to win by guys like Rupe Hintz and Joe Pavelski stepping up. Give it to Dallas. Like, I mean, also your old boy Pete DeBoer 7-0 in Game 7s.
Crazy, absolute nuts stat. And on top of that, I mean, with the 4 remaining teams, that's all 4 remaining teams won because of depth. Like,
yes,
all 4 remaining teams. Like, no team was carried by a line by one player. Like, all 4 remaining teams, it's just depth. Like,
I will
on paper, you look at these Final Four, and you're like, these are not the most exciting Final Four. But if you actually watch the playoffs, I'm like, these are an exciting Final Four, if you ask me.
Yeah. I think it's not the sexy names that you want, but that's the NHL's fucking issue, and we can talk about that all day. Like, I believe I was listening to like one of the TNT broadcasts with Charles Barkley. Like, it's insane that more people. Actually, it was also Snoop Dogg also said this recently when he was doing the bidding for Ottawa. Is how the fuck the NHL doesn't market it, these individual stars. Like, I understand wanting to cater rivalries, but people should be aware. Like, it doesn't feel that Florida has Matthew Tkachuk, who's nominated for the MVP. Sebastian Aho isn't really marketed as a star, but he's a multiple-time All-Star for them. Jack Eichel doesn't feel like as big of a deal as he probably should. Jason Robertson probably should be a bigger deal. Jake Ottinger as well. Like, there's so many of these individual pieces that just the NHL drops the ball in trying to advertise.
You know, you could advertise too like crazy. Who's very outside of like these young kids. Fucking Mark Stone. That guy is the most excited guy ever. Whenever anyone scores a goal.
Yeah, but you know what? I roll my eyes at because that's Mark Stone has one. Like, Mark Stone is very fun. Like, in terms of like interviews and the way he plays the game and stuff like that. Like, that's someone you'd want mic'd up when they do these kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But like, the extent of it, and it's the frustrating thing, the extent of the marketing that the NHL does is just, hey, Mark Stone's excited. Here's a picture of Mark Stone. Look how happy he is. And that's it. And it's fucking annoying. It's fucking annoying, Miguel. Give me more. Like, what's the one thing we complain about? Hockey players have no fucking personality. He has one. And all you're giving me is that he gets excited after a goal. I hate it.
Or like, I mean, a little bit off topic, but like Cole Caulfield in Montreal. Have you see his videos?
yeah.
He seems like a really funny guy,
Yep.
and you don't really get that unless you look for it. You know what I mean?
Nah, like that. Then that whole Montreal team's gonna be excited. But before we move on to the East, biggest concerns you got, Miguel? You got to see these boys from Dallas. A rematch of the 2020 bubble, by the way.
So, biggest concern is essentially one. There's multiple, but one, DeBoer. He knows. He may not know the Cassidy system, but he does know Vegas players.
Yeah, good.
Vegas
point there.
DeBoer has beaten Vegas before. Lucky, but he beat us.
I will also add on that Pete DeBoer teams in year one pretty good.
Pretty good, yes, but he did break the trend of making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, so that's no longer a guarantee anymore. But
yeah,
on top of that, historically, Dallas has always done well against Vegas. They did beat us 4-1 in the bubble year.
Mm-hmm.
They're a deep team, 4 lines. They roll 4 lines. You hear that a lot, and they have possibly the best goalie left. I'm sure he is the best goalie left.
He hasn't played the best, but he's probably the best in terms of pedigree, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's terrifying. Like, one thing, Vegas has been able to score, and that's exciting. But years past, every time we've been eliminated, minus the San Jose year, it's always because we ran into a hot goalie.
And you've lost to worse goalies, like the 2020 bubble. You lost to Anton Khudobin somehow.
He was
hot,
though.
But like
he was hot.
What has he done?
But you're right. You know? You're right. So those are my concerns. But I mean, I feel more confident this year than I have because fucking Dallas beat us three games this season, 3-0. We didn't beat them once, but game 1 was a shutout, a 4-0 shutout. That's when Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and I forgot who else was out with injuries at that time. We were at our worst.
But also, can we? Is it time to admit that the regular season doesn't really matter?
And it doesn't because Oilers fucking swept the floor with Vegas in the regular season.
Yeah, like it's
so. But still, like I said, they beat us 3 times.
I get it.
There's concern there.
You still have to bring it up. I get it.
Yeah. So, and I mean, one thing we haven't played this season, these playoffs, is Dallas is a heavy team. We haven't, and that's the reason why Vegas struggled with them in the bubble. So, Winnipeg can be heavy, but I wouldn't call them a heavy team. And Oilers have like 2-3 heavy players, but they're not a heavy team. You know what I mean? So we're playing against a heavy team who also has depth, who rolls 4 lines. So it's concerning. Like this is not a cakewalk. Like I know Edmonton was the favorite, but just because we beat them, I'm not like, oh, we're walking into finals. No, God no. Dallas is a very good team with a very good coach. The one benefit is with DeBoer is that he is a very good coach, and you know me, I always defended him in Vegas. But his inability to adapt is his biggest downfall. And I feel Bruce Cassidy has been phenomenal with Vegas, and he has 100% outcoached both Woodcraft and I forgot the.
You'll get there. I'm gonna let you get there.
I forgot the Jets coach's name, but he outcoached him too. Who coached Dallas?
That would be Rick Bowness, by the way.
Rick Bowness, who coached Dallas to beat Vegas in the bubble. So it's like he knew Vegas, but Bruce Cassidy was able to adjust, make the right movements, push the right buttons, and to get this team over the hump. So I just pray and hope that he is able to do that 2 more times, really, but another time to get into the finals, but we'll see. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough.
Well, Miguel, good luck. I hope Dallas wins. Moving on to the East, baby. I think we start off with the one I have least to say about because I think it comes down to one thing and one thing only. New Jersey versus Carolina. When you have no goalies, you're going to have a bad time, and that's exactly what happened in New Jersey. No goalies.
They ran the young guy into the ground.
They did, and then they went back to Vanacek, and guess what happened? The bad still. So Schmid and Vanacek, both unplayable, both had a save percentage around 800, like 850, I mean, but
this is the series that I think I only watched one game. Every other series I damn near watched every game. I only watched like one game of the series. I hate to say it, I just didn't care.
I cared. It was very interesting to see how when you have a big win over a rival like the Devils did over the Rangers, it's always interesting to see what the next step is, because sometimes you have a moment like in the other series, Florida continuing that momentum. Beating Boston was a big thing. It was very easy to see Florida kind of bringing it back, you know what I mean? After having a big ass upset, getting up emotionally that high, and then having to play another series. I was interested to see how. Go ahead.
You know what's crazy? I feel like people are sleeping on Carolina, and I don't understand why.
I think I do. Let me finish my thought, which is basically that it's very hard to get yourself back up after you had a big emotional series win like New Jersey did over the Rangers. It was a huge upset, I think. I don't think I'm out of line saying that. And they came out and got bodied by the Carolina Hurricanes. Game 1 wasn't close. Game 2 wasn't close. Game 3 wasn't close. Game 4, it's hard to sweep a team. Like I think it's understatedly hard how hard it is to sweep a team. And New Jersey fought for their lives. But eventually the depth of the Carolina Hurricanes and the inability to get a save just wasn't there for the young team. And New Jersey's going to be there for a long time, and that's going to be good. But
I'm like going in, everyone's like, oh, Schmid this, Schmid that. Only goalie with 2 shutouts in the playoffs.
Yeah. And
Carolina made him look like a rookie goalie.
Yeah, the depth of the Carolina Hurricanes. Like we did like a quick preview of this, and it's one of those things like, well, can they score? Can Carolina score? Which I do believe is a legit question. When you're missing 2 guys in your top 6, you're missing Andrei Svechnikov and you're missing Teuvo Teravainen. Good news about Teravainen, he might be back.
And Max Pacioretty.
Vegas Golden Knights legend Max Pacioretty, who played a grand total of two games for the regular season.
I talk shit about Max Pacioretty, but that guy can score goals.
He can. He was part of the solution to the problem the Carolina had in the playoffs last year against New York in the conference final. No, in the semifinals. So in this round, basically, where they couldn't score, and that was partially because of Shesterkin, partially because of them. But the reason I think Carolina gets a little disrespected and just kind of an afterthought is, Miguel, like, how many times have we seen Carolina be like, nah, deep roster, pretty good goaltending, pretty good defense, they're fine. And fine doesn't really make you jump out of your seat, you know? Like, that's kind of the big thing. And I think their roster is largely the same. I think the core is still there with guys like Jacob Slavin, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, I think now is a young guy you can throw into that conversation about young guys for Carolina. But this team is pretty deep. Mark Neckes has took a step forward since last year. Paul Stastny's been pretty good. Jordan Staal, low key, one of the best defensive centermen, anchoring that third line for them. So they got a lot of depth, a lot of pieces. Their defense can score. They have Gosper and Burns back there, along with defensive guys like Brady Shea and Jacob Slavin. So I don't know, man. Like, I like Carolina. It's just that they don't have that one piece that you feel like can bring them over. But maybe it's already on that roster. Maybe it's Sebastian Aho, and we're just not paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, that team's good. Really good.
That's the problem again when the NHL doesn't market stars. Like, there's not, like, what do you latch on to besides, like, yeah, it's the Carolina Hurricanes. They're adorable. They do the storm surge, and they're a bunch of jerks. But it'll be interesting. Like, outside of that, Miguel, like, are you surprised at how fast the series ended between them and New Jersey?
Yeah, considering I had Devils going all the way. Yeah, I was a little shocked, but like it's weird. I'm not shocked that Carolina won. I was shocked how fast it was though, for sure. I thought Devils would have put a bit of a better fight, but when you don't have goaltending, you don't have goaltending, and
Yeah, there's not much you can do outside of
there's
that.
nothing
So
you can do. Yeah.
moving on to I don't know. Can you call this an upset? Like they beat the best team ever in the regular season, the Boston Bruins, in 7 after being down 3-1, and then the next round they handle.
I don't care what
the Toronto
anyone
Maple Leafs in
says.
5.
This is not an upset. Florida beating Boston was an upset. But when you beat the greatest team of all time, statistically, it's no longer a surprise. It's no longer an upset. Whoever else they beat, if you ask me.
Man, it's tough. It's tough because anytime you beat the defending Eastern Conference champions, a team that won 2 out of the last 3 cups, a team that went to the finals for 3 straight years. Expectations, Miguel, their expectations went from just making it out of the first round to let's make some noise. That didn't happen.
It's so crazy. Like, again, on paper, like you said, this is not a sexy Final Four, but
No.
when you really look at it, when you watch these games, this is a fucking amazing Final Four because you got Florida Panthers who were borderline lottery team at one point.
Miguel, all Pittsburgh needed to do was win 2 games out of 2 of the worst teams in the NHL, and Florida would not be in this position. Like, it's insane.
Florida, I wouldn't even say they clawed their way in. They kind of lucked their way in.
Pittsburgh shit the bed.
Florida lucked their way in.
Miguel, Pittsburgh lost to Chicago, who just won the number 1 overall pick. They lost to Chicago, and that's how Florida got in.
Because they gave Florida an inch, and now they're taking everything. They're taking a mile. You know what I mean?
No, they're taking every opportunity they got.
The thing about Florida, again, another team, like I said, all 4 teams that are remaining are teams that are rolling 4 lines. They're getting scoring up and down the team, and they're a team that's hot, a team that's underdogs, that are angry, mad, trying to prove everybody wrong. And on top of that, arguably have the hottest goalie at the moment.
Yeah.
In Bobrovsky.
Yeah, he played insane.
That is Dallas with Hudobin in the bubble. That is Carey Price with Montreal, where that team shouldn't have gone that far. But Carey Price stood on his fucking head not the entire playoffs, because I mean, we saw what happened in the finals, but most of the playoffs.
Well, we've seen that where underdog teams make these runs and their juices just kind of dry up in the final for whatever reason. Like it is what it is.
Bob is on fire, and we will see how long they can keep that flame going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's playing like a $10 million goalie, like exactly what he is. Like he's playing so good. Man, it's funny because like I feel Toronto has a lot of Edmonton vibes into it, where you lose this series, and I think you feel like you threw it away. You threw up an opportunity to win the Stanley Cup championship, not even make it to the final. You threw away an opportunity at winning because you look at the teams ahead of you, and you go, man, if we beat this team in the second round, all we have to do is beat Dallas. Or hey, if we beat this team in the second round, all we have to do is play Carolina. We didn't have to play Boston. And we already beat the defending Eastern Conference champions. We beat a dynasty, basically. And all we have to do is beat the 8 seed? And for Edmonton to be, all we have to do is beat a team we beat 3-1 in the regular season? While we have 2 of the best players? While Toronto has maybe the most elite goal scorer that's currently playing was Austin Matthews. Like all this conversation about what could have been, but what ends up happening is that the job in front of them was too big for them. And
I just think what happened to them is what happened in Vegas against Montreal.
You're looking past them and it bit you in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Toronto, that locker room thought nothing of Florida.
And that happens so many times in the NHL playoffs. Like You said it yourself. Like the year that Vegas lost to Montreal, that wasn't supposed to happen. The year that Vegas lost to Dallas, that wasn't supposed to happen. The year that the Capitals won the Cup, that wasn't supposed to happen. The year that Vegas made it to the final that same year, they weren't supposed to beat the Kings. They weren't supposed to beat the Sharks. They weren't supposed to beat the Jets, but they did. And it's all because the opposition in front of you, you're like, I have this. There is no way I'm losing. It's like giving your little brother the control. And you ever been the younger cousin or the little brother? They give you the control to play with them, and you body them. And the look of the older sibling or older cousin is like, how the fuck did I just lose?
I'll never. It's quick side tangent story.
Go ahead.
When we were younger, me and my brother, we weren't playing against each other, but we were playing one of the old Dragon Ball Z Budokai games. Maybe one, maybe two.
What good games?
And he was getting his teeth kicked in by Nappa in the story mode. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, let me try. He's getting angry. Like, no, I got this. I got this. Finally, he was at his boiling point. Mm-hmm. And he throws the controller. I pick it up. I play it. And I body Nappa in one try.
Yeah.
And the anger out of my brother. And I'll never forget that.
And I think you could see them at the exit interviews. Like after the Game 3 loss where they went down 3-0, Marner said, we don't care what the media says. We don't care what you say. Like, it comes off at that where you're like, the criticism is valid at that moment. Do players get a lot of shit? Unnecessarily so, especially in Toronto and bigger markets like that where hockey is the one focus, the one and only focus for a lot of these markets. Yeah, a lot of unnecessary shit. But when you're down 3-0, you deserve every piece of criticism you have. Like, I get it.
I think the biggest problem with Toronto was not losing. It's not that you lost in the second round.
How you lost.
How you lost.
It was embarrassing.
The big four didn't show up, and
one point between all four of them or something stupid like that. Like they did.
Well, it was a little more, but just because in the last game, Nylander.
Oh yeah. Marner scored a goal.
Yeah.
But
before that, it was 1 point.
But like any of this, all 5 games. I believe game 1 ended in a 2-goal win for Florida, but all the other 4 games were 1-goal games where you just needed a little more from anybody, and you didn't get any of it. It's the opposite of like at least Edmonton. You can see like, well, at least McDavid showed up for a couple games, and at least Draisaitl showed up for these games, but your depth didn't show up. Like if David Kampf, I was listening to the Dangle podcast, like. Game 3, David Kampf was the best player. Like, just your fourth line center. He can't be your best player when you're spending $44 million. And, like, I understand. Yeah. I understand the expectations. It's somewhere in the middle, Miguel, where this is a disaster.
I look forward to talking about Toronto's demise with a Leaf fan. But that'll be during the offseason.
Yeah, that'll be during the offseason, trying to figure that out. But I think in the same vein, someone who thrived in that kind of energy, Matthew Tkachuk, is the perfect player. Like, when we're talking about someone who plays, resembling Jack Eichel. I will hold a grudge, I will play like a shitbag, and I will score on you. That's Matthew Tkachuk. There's a reason he's nominated for the MVP.
Matthew Tkachuk is like Ryan Reeves, like Vander Kane,
but he can score and do everything.
But he's an elite player, and that's the difference.
Yeah, it's the Brad Marchand effect where he's a shithead, but he can also put up a hat trick on you.
And those are the best players. Like everyone hates him, but if he's on your team, you fucking love that guy. Look
at how many shitheads this Florida team has, and there's a reason they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. I think since being down 3-1, you could really see this team.
And Montour has been fucking great for them.
Montour, what a coming out party for him. But like Sam Bennett had a shitty hit on Matthew Nyes in game 2. Put him out for that rest of the series. It sucks, but he's a guy who plays extra physical, and he knows he can get away with stuff. Radko Gudas, what a piece of shit. He had a big key in that game-winning goal to put away the series in 5. Maybe holding the stick of Calle Yarncroke, maybe not. But you could see this team plays with a giant FU because after that goal's in by Nick Cousins, what did he do, Miguel? He yells right in the face of the goaltender. As he that's just big piece of shit energy, and it's
that would anger me to no end. Like,
but you can't do anything because you just lost.
Because this fan base is gonna throw that photo.
Yeah, forever.
In Toronto's forever.
But yeah, talk about guys stepping up. Like you said, Brandon Montour stepped up. Carter Verhaeghe played great in the series.
Like, you know how many times I've seen the Goudreau standing over
Yeah,
fucking Fleury? I
yeah,
hate it. It
yeah,
angers me.
yeah, and it's the key moments, and that might be it. And it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that kind of chip on your shoulder, because I don't think there's a narrative that like we talked about, like why do we care more about Carolina, right? Narrative going on, like they're good, but why don't we care about them more? Now that you're not playing Toronto, now that you're not playing the greatest regular season team, also Boston in general, I think you can get up for as your opponent.
Yeah.
How are you going to get up for Carolina? Because I'm not sure you could find that same kind of chip on your shoulder, us against the world energy that you had against Toronto and Boston.
It's not gonna be a chip against show. I just think they're just gonna ride the wave, though. I think they're gonna ride the momentum of we weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs, and now we're gonna fucking take the whole thing.
Yeah, but
like it's you ride the underdog of not being there, and not necessarily the, like you said, the against Boston, against Toronto. Now you're just riding in general of like, oh, we weren't even supposed to make it this far, but we're already halfway here. We might as well fucking go the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I do think Matthew Tkachuk is the perfect leader for this group, and I think you could see his energy rubbing off on everybody else. But I do think Carolina is one of the better coach teams in NHL, one of the best defensive teams in the NHL, two, and have that kind of depth and the kind of defensive power to kind of put up with the forward depth. And because one of the things that they played, you look at the advanced numbers. I know you hate them, Miguel. Sometimes, like, we look too much at the analytics and stuff like that.
I mean, the reason I hate analytics is because analytics hates Vegas.
That's fine. You know? That's true. I mean, you're not wrong there. It's always very funny how it's like, oh, we're up 3-2 in this series, and how did our chances go down? That's always very funny. But I'm talking about, like, this Carolina team is even. It's depth. Like, I don't think you really worry too much about some part of it disappearing like you did the core four with Toronto. It just really comes up to, like, can you get enough from everybody at that point to make it a team effort? And it'll be interesting to see who are the people that stands out, because I think you can look at Florida and be like, yeah, Barkov, Tkachuk, Bennett. I think at this point you can put Brandon Montour as guys you know are going to show up for the series. For Carolina, you have Sebastian Aho and Miguel. Tell me somebody else other than Martin Necas who can show up.
For Carolina?
Yeah, for Carolina.
I don't even know.
See, it could be Jesper Fast. Honestly, you know who stood up for them in the clinching game? Jordan Martinook, who is a pretty good story because he was literally put on waivers earlier in the year by Carolina. Didn't play for them for a long time. Played in the AHL. And look at him now. I believe he had a 3-point game to close it out. So different guys stepping up. I think throughout all teams, through Vegas, Dallas, Florida, and Carolina, they're all deep. They're all deep, and it'll be interesting to see who stands out for each one of those conference championships.
Some series predictions in, man.
All right, what do you want? Which one do you want first?
Let's go Carolina, Florida.
Man, as a Kings fan, I still have very, very sour grapes energy towards Matthew Tkachuk. But I do think that, man. So the thing I was going to say about analytics is that they got bodied in terms of possession and stuff like that, but they made the most of their opportunities against Toronto. And I don't see Carolina playing that sloppy. So with that said, I will say Carolina in 6.
It's so, like, despite all the good stuff I said about Florida, despite the hotness that they've been in Bob's run,
besides them having the best goalie,
I do believe it comes to an end here. And not only does it come to an end here, it comes to an end abruptly in 5 games, in my opinion.
Wow.
I kind of want to go crazy and say 4, but I'm going to give Florida the benefit of the doubt and say 5. Like, I personally, if I could choose, I'd rather Florida Vegas in the finals, and not because I think Florida's easier, because if they make it, if they make it past Carolina, Florida's unfucking stoppable, if you ask me. It's only because I like to see finals of teams that have never won the cup. But I do think Carolina beats them in 5.
Well, then I guess we have your pick for the Western Conference Finals, Las Vegas.
Yes, I mean, of course. I mean, I have to, right? Like,
All right. Then let's switch it up then, because you're gonna pick them, and we don't know your games yet. But if Vegas wins, how do they win?
I mean, the same way they've been doing it, just defensively structured team that doesn't fucking take too many penalties. Because when they take penalties, they lost. Simple as that. They win by not taking penalties and sticking to the game plan. Because I just think, the scary part is Auditor. He's terrifying. He is terrifying.
And then let me wrap up with this one. Let me get your opinion. Does Aiden Hill continue his good play?
I think he does because, again, Vegas goalies they've ran through 5 goalies this year and they've all looked good because of the defense. And as long as that defense stays to plan, stays according to the Bruce Cassidy structure, our goalies, our average goalies, will remain to look good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understandable. So that brings me to the last question, Miguel.
I don't expect Game 6 Aiden Hill like every game going forward. I don't.
Yeah, makes sense. How many games?
So my head says 7, but because Pete DeBoer is undefeated in 7s, I'm gonna say 6.
You don't want it to go to 7. You do not want it to go to 7.
Where you at, Eric? I know you got Dallas.
Dallas in 6. I think I'm a hater. There is no logic, baby. I hate you. You have too much. 4 conference finals in 6 years, you ungrateful son of a bitch.
And the crazy part, if we didn't get the major, it might be 5.
That's true. But I will say this. I'm not going to use hockey logic. I'm not going to give you numbers right now. I'll give you that Jason Robertson, amazing winger for the Dallas Stars, his parents are Kings season ticket holders. So by extension, the Kings are in the playoffs, baby. Let's go, Jason Robertson.
And that scares me too, because there's no way Jason remains this cold.
He only had one goal.
There's no way.
Only one goal in round 2. So,
and that's terrifying. But we will see. You can find me at Miguel Kicks all over the internet.
The nerves are kicking in.
Collective Zombie on YouTube. Eric, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Instagram, Twitter at _Erick Oriana. It's _ErickOrellana. Miguel, send us to round 3.
For all you still watching and listening and everything you're doing, thank you guys so much. We're in the conference finals, y'all. So get hype, get ready for some amazing hockey, and like always, unite the realms. Stay golden. Let's freaking go.
Unite the realms is terrible. Goodbye.